Good evening. The topic that we are going to discuss today is cash basis and accrual basis of accounting, and then we will discuss adjusting entries. In this discussion, we will emphasize the difference between cash basis and accrual basis. We will emphasize in this lecture why most companies are using accrual basis, and we also emphasize the disadvantage of having a cash basis of accounting. After that, we will discuss the adjusting entries, its significance in the preparation of the financial statements, because before we prepare financial statements, we have to ensure that it is more reliable in the eyes of the users. That is why before we present financial statements, we have to adjust some accounts title. That is why adjusting entry is necessary. So let's define what is cash basis of accounting. This means income is recognized upon receipt of cash, while expenses are recorded upon payment of cash. So this definition is very simple. This means under the cash basis of accounting, we are just focusing on cash transaction. If the transaction has no cash involvement, or in other words, cash is not involved in any transaction, we will not record the transaction. So that is the cash basis of accounting. So here the definition is clearly stating that when it comes to income, when we will only record the income if we receive cash. When it comes to expenses, we will only record expenses upon payment of cash. So that is the cash basis of accounting. And what is the accrual basis of accounting? This means income is recognized when earned, even if it is not yet collected, while expenses are recorded when incurred, even if it is not yet paid. So what do we mean by this definition? Under the accrual basis of accounting, it is wider as compared to cash basis, because under the accrual basis of accounting, we are not focusing on cash. Even if there is no cash involved, we will record transactions. All transactions will be recorded regardless if cash was received or if cash was paid. So when it comes to income, we have to recognize the income even though there is no collection. We will recognize the income as long as it happened already, meaning we earned the income. Even if the customer did not pay us, we have to recognize the income. When it comes to expenses, we will record expenses even though it is not yet paid to the supplier. We have to recognize the expenses when it happened, when incurred, even though there is no cash payment yet. So that is how you distinguish cash basis and accrual basis of accounting. I will repeat, cash basis, under the cash basis, we will record transactions if cash is involved. Under the accrual basis of accounting, all transactions will be recorded whether cash is involved or not. So in other words, accrual basis of accounting is broader as compared to cash basis of accounting. And this is the reason why most companies and organizations opted to use the accrual basis rather than the cash basis, simply because financial performance are fairly measured and that analysis of financial position is more reliable. Under the accrual basis, since as we have said, everything is recorded, it is broader, meaning to say if we are using accrual basis of accounting, our financial report will be more reliable and our financial performance can be measured without any doubt. Financial performance are fairly presented because under the accrual basis of accounting, everything is recorded, and most companies and organizations are using accrual basis of accounting. The reason why most organizations are using accrual basis is because they have identified this disadvantage. If you will use cash basis of accounting, you will experience this disadvantage. And what is that disadvantage? It gives the business a limited look at its income and expenses. Just imagine, the information that will be given to you is very limited under the cash basis of accounting, because not all transactions are recorded. What has been recorded as cash transactions only. That is why you have a very limited information to be received. Cash basis does not show the company's liabilities. Just imagine, if you are the owner of the business, you receive the financial reports. That financial report will be considered incomplete if you are using cash basis because liabilities are not recorded. As a result, the owner of the business may think that he has more money to spend that actually possess. So, even if you have 10 million cash in your possession, without looking at the liability, you can be deprived of the complete information as far as your business is concerned. Even if you have 100 million pesos cash in your possession, if your liabilities are greater than 100 million pesos, which is not recorded under the cash basis, you are blinded on the actual financial position of your business. That is why cash basis is not being used by most businesses because of this disadvantage wherein you cannot see your liabilities or indebtedness. Take note that your legal obligation is very important in business. Not settling your legal obligation may expose your business to reputational and legal risk. So let's have examples of transactions that will show the difference between cash basis and accrual basis. So in this discussion, I will show you the entries under the cash basis and accrual basis. We will have the transaction and then we will have the entry, the journal entry under the cash basis and the journal entry under the accrual basis so that we can see a clear picture on how we differentiate the two systems of accounting. So the first transaction is that ABC company sold merchandise for cash amounting to 500,000 pesos. So what will be the entry under cash basis and what will be the entry under the accrual basis? So the question here is, if we are going to prepare an entry, we have to identify if the transaction involves cash. Because if cash is involved in this transaction, there is an entry under the cash basis. So, ABC company sold merchandise for cash, meaning the company received cash. Therefore, cash is involved. What is the entry? The entry is debit cash, 500,000 pesos, and credit sales, 500,000 pesos. That is the entry under the cash basis because we receive cash. Sales is recognized here because we receive cash. What is the entry under the accrual basis? The same entry. Because as we discussed a while ago, under the accrual basis, everything is recorded. Whether cash is involved or not, we have to record transactions. That is why under the accrual basis, we have the same entry as we have done under the cash basis of accounting. So the second transaction is also a sales transaction. But by this time, ABC company sold merchandise on account for 400,000 pesos. So, ABC company here has a business transaction, but this transaction does not involve cash. Why? Because we did not receive cash. Although there was a sale, we sold merchandise, but the merchandise that we sold was on account, meaning the customer did not pay us. We did not receive a single centavo. What we received is just a promise from the customer, the promise to pay. So, what will be the entry under the cash basis of accounting? So, there will be no entry because there is no cash involved. We did not receive cash. What we received is just the promise to pay. Although there was a sales transaction, we did not recognize the sale because there is no cash received, because we are using the cash basis of accounting. What is the entry under the accrual basis? So the entry is debit accounts receivable 400,000 pesos and credit sales 400,000 pesos. So here we can see that under accrual basis, even if there is no cash received, we have to recognize accounts receivable. We have to recognize the sales of 400,000 pesos. If we will take a look, we will analyze the journal entries. If you are using the cash basis, the sales that has been recorded is only 500,000 pesos. Under the accrual basis of accounting, the total amount of sales recorded is 900,000 pesos. That is 500,000 plus 400,000. So here, it is clearly be seen that under the accrual basis, we can report the most accurate amount of sales. Under the cash basis, sales is only 500,000. But under the accrual basis, sales is 900,000. If you are the businessman, if you are the owner of the business, what basis will you use? Cash basis or accrual basis? You would rather use accrual basis because it reflects the true amount of sales. It is not 500,000 but rather 900,000 pesos. So take note, under the accrual basis, under the cash basis, accounts receivable is not recognized. I will repeat, under the accrual basis, the total sales is 900,000, while under the cash basis, the total sales is only 500,000. Meaning to say, under the accrual basis, the amount of sales reported is more reliable. Next transaction. ABC Company purchased merchandise for cash 300,000 pesos. Again, we will prepare journal entry under the cash basis and accrual basis. The question is in this transaction, do you think cash is involved? Is cash involved in this transaction? The answer is yes, because we purchased merchandise and we paid cash for 300,000 pesos. Therefore, the entry is debit purchases 300,000 pesos and credit cash 300,000 pesos. It is clearly stated here that we paid cash and we credited cash for the amount of 300,000 pesos. And that is the entry under the cash basis. We have an entry because cash is involved. Under the accrual basis, we have the same entry. Why? Because, as we have said, under the accrual basis, everything is recorded. Whether cash or non-cash transactions are recorded under the accrual basis of accounting. The next transaction is also purchase of merchandise, but by this time, the merchandise was purchased on account amounting to 400,000 pesos. So what is the entry under the cash basis? The question is there a cash involved in this transaction? The answer is no. There is no cash involved. We purchased merchandise. We received the merchandise from the supplier, but we did not pay the supplier. We just made a promise. We promised to the supplier that we will pay them in the future. So since there is no cash involved, we did not pay the 400,000 pesos. Under the cash basis of accounting, there will be no entry. Under the accrual basis of accounting, what will be the entry? There is an entry because under the accrual basis, we have to record everything. Even if there is no cash payment, we have to record everything. And what will be the entry? Debit purchases, 400,000 pesos, and credit accounts payable, 400,000 pesos. So, what can you notice? Under the cash basis, the total purchases is only 300,000 pesos. Under the accrual basis, the total purchases is 700,000 pesos. So, meaning to say, under the accrual basis, the amount of sales to be reported is more reliable. It is 700,000 pesos. It is more reliable because we recorded everything. While in cash basis, what has been recorded is only 300,000 pesos. So, under the cash basis of accounting, accounts payable is not recognized. The same is true with accounts receivable. Under the cash basis of accounting, accounts receivable is likewise not recognized. So here you can see the difference between the two. If I will ask you a question, which is more reliable, cash basis or accrual basis? If you will ask me, my answer is accrual basis is more reliable because if you will compute for the total purchases, it is 700,000 pesos. While in cash basis, the total purchases recorded is only 300,000 pesos. Next, let's now discuss adjusting entries. As I have said, adjusting entries are needed. You cannot do away with adjusting entries because before we prepare financial statements, we have to make sure that everything is reliable and fairly presented. That is why we have to adjust some accounts title to make sure that the things that we are going to report in the financial statements are true and accurate. So what are adjusting entries? These are the entries needed to update the books of accounts, the results of which would make the entire financial statements reliable. Later on, I will discuss what are those things that need to be updated in the books of accounts, because what has been recorded is not enough. We have to analyze the books of accounts to identify what are the things that should be updated to make the entire financial statements reliable. And below are the most common adjusting entries that an entity should undertake at the end of the accounting period. So, what will be enumerated below are just examples and the most common adjusting entries. There are so many adjusting entries in actual practice which cannot be discussed in this session. What we are going to discuss are just the most common adjusting entries. So the first one is the recognition of the cost of inventories as a result of the physical count. If the nature of your business is merchandising, you have to conduct physical count. What physical count? The remaining unsold merchandise in your possession, and that is the cost of inventories. You will conduct physical count. Try to make some observations in some department stores or in some grocery stores. At the end of the year, take note, the sales ladies and the sales clerks are conducting physical count of the items remaining in the store, and that is part of the physical count or inventories. Next, recognition of the expense portion of prepaid insurance. I will explain later what is the expense portion, because when you pay the insurance policy, when you pay the insurance premium, that will be recognized generally as an asset account. At the end of the year, you will make an adjusting entry to recognize the expense portion of that particular asset. Next, recognition of depreciation expense applicable to fixed assets or property, plant, and equipment. What is depreciation expense? This depreciation expense is applicable to fixed assets, machines, equipment, building, vehicles. The word depreciation came from the root word depreciate, meaning the value reduces. So we will recognize the expense portion of an asset, because when you acquire an asset, for example, you acquire machine for 500,000 pesos, you are not supposed to make that 500 pesos as one of your expenses. The 500,000 pesos will be recognized as an asset, and then every year you will recognize the expense portion. Later on, I will explain how we will apply the theory of depreciation in our adjusting entries. Recording of unpaid overtime pay at the end of the period. Usually, the employees of a company render overtime at the end of the year. Since December 30 and 31 are holidays, some companies require their employees, especially those in the accounting department, to render overtime at the end of the year. Usually, that is being done on December 29. So, of course, you will pay your employees. But payment of that overtime pay will be made the following month or the following year. If you will prepare financial statements, the salaries of those employees who rendered overtime is considered unpaid, because that will be paid on the next payroll period. Next, number 5, example of adjusting entry. Recording of billing expenses received to be paid the following month. Supposing you receive electricity bill today, and the due date of that electricity statement of account that you receive will be next month. Of course, you will not pay today, but you will pay next month. So, even if you did not pay today, you will record the expenses, and that is part of the adjusting entries. Next, recognition of asset or expense portion of office supplies as a result of the physical inventory. Just like merchandise inventory, when you purchase office supplies, you will conduct an inventory of remaining office supplies at the end of the year or at the end of the accounting period. So the result of your inventory will be recognized most of the time as an asset, because that is the remaining amount of supplies in your possession. Next, recognition of accrued interest receivable or payable. When you lend money to your customers, in some instances you impose interest. At the end of the year, most of the time, the interest income is not yet collected. That will be collected the following year. In that case, you will record the interest receivable, even if the interest is not yet collected. In the same manner, if you borrowed money from the bank will impose interest upon you. Most of the time, at the end of the accounting period, interest payment will be done the following year. Even if it is not yet paid, you have to recognize your interest expense, and that is considered interest payable. Number 8, recognition of the income portion of previously recorded unearned income. What do you mean by unearned income? Actually, unearned income is an income received in advance. It is not an income, but rather a liability. Example, your customer made an advance payment. The customer purchased goods and merchandise from your business. It so happened that the sale happened at the end of December. For example, December 29. So the customer made an advance payment. According to the customer gave an instruction that the merchandise should be delivered the following year or January. And then you receive cash from the customer, but the goods are not yet delivered. So that amount of money that you receive from the customer is unearned income. It is an advance income. It is not an income. It is considered a liability. Why a liability? Because you have the obligation to return the money if the goods are not delivered as agreed upon. So that is why unearned income is classified not an income but rather a liability. At the end of the year, you will recognize the income portion of that unearned income previously recorded, and that will be part of your adjusting entries. So let's have some examples of adjusting entries. I will show you the transactions, and then opposite the transactions, I will show the corresponding adjusting entries. So the first transaction is that ABC company conducted physical count of unsold merchandise in its possession. Total amount was 750,000 pesos. So how can you explain this transaction? It is the end of the year. So the company conducted physical count. The nature of the business is buying and selling of merchandise. So the company conducted physical count of the remaining merchandise unsold in its possession. And the result is 750,000 pesos. So you have to recognize the result of the physical count. And the adjusting entry is debit merchandise inventory at the end of 750,000 pesos. Why end? Because it is the end of the year. So your merchandise inventory, which is the result of your physical count, is 750,000. And then you will credit income summary of 750,000 pesos. What is income summary? It is just a temporary account. You have to use this account so that we can follow the principle of debit and credit in recognizing the cost of your merchandise inventory at the end of the year. At the end of the accounting period, after the accounting process has been completed, we will eliminate that income summary, and we will discuss that later in our succeeding lessons. So that is the entry. That is the first adjusting entry that we have discussed. Debit merchandise inventory at the end, 750,000 pesos, and credit income summary, 750,000 pesos, and the explanation is to record the results of physical count of remaining unsold merchandise. So this merchandise inventory, the physical count, is mandatory for any merchandising business. You have to determine how much merchandise is unsold at the end of the accounting period. Next, the trial balance of ABC company showed prepaid insurance of 24,000 pesos, meaning the company paid insurance premium amounting to 24,000 pesos. If you still remember our discussion in the preparation of the trial balance, prepaid insurance is part of the trial balance as one of the assets, because prepaid insurance is an asset because we expect benefits that may happen in the future. So prepaid insurance is an asset. So this was paid on September 1, 2020, covering a 1-year period. Financial statements cut-off is December 31, 2020. What do you mean by cut-off? We will prepare financial statements or financial report at the end of the year, and that is December 31, 2020. Today, since we are discussing these examples of adjusting entries, our presumption is that today is December 31, 2020. That is the cutoff of our financial statements. And this prepaid insurance was paid on September 1, 2020, covering a 1-year period. Because whenever you purchase insurance policy, you paid insurance premium, insuring your property or your assets. The coverage is always 1 year. So that 1-year period is the length of time that your assets are covered by insurance. Meaning, if something happened to your asset, if some untoward incident happened to your asset, the insurance company will answer for the loss or damages in your asset for that 1-year coverage period. So what will be the adjusting entry? Because in this particular case, in this particular transaction, we have an asset of 24,000. But we have to recognize the expense portion. What is that expense portion? That is from September 1, 2020 up to December 31, 2020. And how many months is that? That is 4 months. Out of 24,000 pesos, our asset, we will recognize an expense. Meaning we will reduce the 24,000 pesos of whatever expense portion will be computed. So how much now is the expense portion? The expense portion will be from September 1, 2020 to December 31, 2020. So the entry is debit insurance expense 8,000 pesos and credit prepaid insurance 8,000 pesos. Why did we construct this kind of entry? Because 8,000 pesos is the expense portion. Later on, I will discuss how did we arrive at 8,000 pesos. So, we have to recognize the expense. That expense of 8,000 pesos covers the period September 1, 2020 to December 31, 2020. Because from September 1 to December 31, nothing happens in our assets. Nothing untoward incidents happened. Because the purpose of insurance is to pay the company if something happens in our assets. For example, if your vehicle was insured, if you encounter road accident and your vehicle was damaged, the insurance company will answer for the damages. So in this case, nothing happens. So we will recognize the expense from September 1, 2020 to December 31, 2020, and that is 8,000 pesos out of 24,000. We credited prepaid insurance because we will reduce our asset. We will reduce our asset account by 8,000. We debited insurance expense of 8,000 because an increase in expense is debit. We will recognize the expense portion. We increase expense by 8,000 pesos and then we reduce our asset by 8,000 pesos. So, how did we arrive that 8,000 pesos? So, let's proceed to the next slide for the explanation on how we arrive at that 8,000 pesos. So, insurance policy for properties usually covers a 1-year period. This is what I have discussed a while ago. So, in this case, ABC Company paid 24,000 insurance premium on September 1, 2020. This means coverage is September 1, 2020 to September 1, 2021 because the coverage is 1-year period. You paid insurance premium so that if something happens to our properties, the insurance company will pay us for the loss or damages. And that coverage is 1 year, from September 1, 2020 to September 1, 2021. So let's proceed. So this is the 1 year period of the insurance coverage. So the insurance coverage will start on September 1, 2020 and will end on September 1, 2021. That is a 1 year period. According to the problem, our financial statements cut-off date is December 31, 2020. And that is our cut-off date. So let's count from September 1, 2020 to December 31, 2020. How many months? That is 4 months. So that 4 months is the expense portion. So if we will compute for the expense portion, that is 24,000, the amount of insurance policy that we paid multiplied by 4 months divided by 12 months, that is 8,000 pesos. That is why in our adjusting entry is debit insurance expense 8,000 pesos because that is the expense portion, and credit prepaid insurance 8,000 pesos. Next. So the trial balance of ABC company shows equipment of 375,000 pesos. Estimated useful life is 10 years. Financial statements cut-off is December 31, 2020. So here we will apply the principle of depreciation. If you have paid 375,000 pesos for that equipment, you are not supposed to make that 375,000 as your expense. It is not an expense, it is an asset. You will now allocate the cost of your asset over the estimated useful life. In this case, the estimated useful life of that equipment is 10 years, meaning we will use the equipment for 10 years. The equipment will function for 10 years. So if that is the case, we will compute the depreciation as 375,000 pesos divided by 10 years to arrive at the annual depreciation expense. So every year, we will record that depreciation expense. So 375,000 divided by 10 years, that is 37,500. Therefore, the entry is debit depreciation expense 37,000 pesos, 37,500 pesos, and credit accumulated depreciation 37,500 pesos. So the explanation is to record the annual depreciation of equipment based on estimated useful life, and that is 375,000 divided by 10. So every year, this means every year, you will record 37,500 as depreciation expense until you reach 10 years. When you reach 10 years, you will arrive, if you will total the amount of depreciation expense that you recorded, it will be the same as the cost of your equipment of 375,000 pesos because we have allocated the cost of our equipment over its estimated useful life. And that is depreciation expense every year. Later on, I will discuss the meaning of accumulated depreciation. The word itself, accumulated, accumulates. The depreciation accumulates. So that is adjusting entry number 3. Next, adjusting entry number 4. The employees of ABC company rendered overtime on December 29, 2020. Total amount of overtime pay was 63,000 pesos. This is what I am discussing a while ago. So the employees rendered overtime. Of course, after that overtime, payment will be made the following month. In this case, the following year. That means January 15. We are using the accrual basis of accounting, meaning we have to record the expense even though it is not yet paid. So what will be the adjusting entry? Debit, salaries expense, 63,000 pesos. We have to recognize, even though it is not yet paid. Increase in salaries means debit. So that is salaries expense, debit, 63,000 pesos. And credit, salaries payable, 63,000 pesos. Some companies are using the account title accrued salaries payable. It is the same. Whether accrued salaries payable or salaries payable, they are the same. It is a liability account, meaning we will pay our employees in the future, not today. We incurred the expense, but payment will be made in the future. So the explanation is to record the overtime pay of employees who reported for work on December 29, 2020. Payment to employees shall be made the next payroll period, and that is January 15, 2021. So here we can appreciate the significance of accrual basis of accounting. We are recognizing the expense even though it is not yet paid, and that is part of the adjusting entries. Next, adjusting entry number 5. On December 20, 2020, the company received electricity and water billing for 12,700 pesos. Payment due date shall be January 10, 2021. Previously, this was charged to utilities expense. So we will use the account title utilities expense. So this is now an example of an expense already incurred but not yet paid. The expense already happened. The consumption of the electricity and water already happened. That is why we received the billing statement. We have to record the expense even though it is not yet paid, because we are using the accrual basis of accounting. What will be the entry? Debit, utilities expense, 12,700 pesos, and credit, accrued expenses payable, 12,700 pesos. And what is the explanation? To record utilities expense covering the month, payment shall be made on due date, which is the following month or the following year. So it is very clear, if you are using the accrual basis of accounting, you will make an adjusting entry recognizing the expense even though it is not yet paid. Why recognize? Because the expense already happened. We already consumed the electricity and water. That is why we have to record the expense even though it is not yet paid. Adjusting entry number 6. The trial balance of ABC Company as of December 31, 2020 shows an amount of office supplies expense of 10,500. So we have recorded office supplies expense. That is reflected in the trial balance. The custodian conducted an inventory and revealed the amount of 7,500. So at the end of the year, which is December 31, 2020, the custodian of office supplies. What do you mean by custodian? The safe keeper, the one who possesses the the office supplies. So the remaining office supplies in the possession of the custodian is now only 7,500 pesos. Meaning to say, the difference between 10,500 and 7,500 is the amount that was used by the company. 7,500 is the unused office supplies. Therefore, we will make an adjusting entry to recognize the result of the inventory. And the result of the inventory is unused office supplies, 7,500 pesos, and we will reduce the expense by 7,500 pesos because the difference between the two is the amount of office supplies that was used. That is why we reduce the expense, the office supplies expense. So what is the explanation? To recognize the asset portion of office supplies which represent the remaining amount in the inventory. Next, adjusting entry number 7. ABC Company borrowed money from Metrobank on August 31, 2020 amounting to 3 million pesos. Take note of the date and the amount. August 31 is the date of borrowing. The amount borrowed is 3 million pesos with interest of 6% per annum or per year. Principal and interest shall be settled on August 31, 2021, meaning this is just a 1-year period loan, a short-term loan, 1 year only. So, at the end of the year, which is December 31, 2020, we will recognize the expense. What expense? That is interest expense. Because from August 31 to December 31, we have already used the money that we borrowed from Metrobank. If we use the money, it is only logical to recognize the interest expense. The interest expense is the cost of the money that we borrowed from Metrobank. So we will recognize the expense. That is from August 31, 2020 to December 31, 2020. And how much is the expense? Here is the computation. 3 million is the amount of money that we borrowed from Metrobank, multiplied by 6% the interest rate, multiplied by 4 months, divided by 12 months. Why 4 months? That is August 31, 2020 to December 31, 2020. So, the result is 60,000 pesos. What is 60,000 pesos? That is the interest expense that we have to recognize from August 31 to December 31, 2020. And what will be the credit? Credit, interest payable of 60,000 pesos. So, another example of accrual basis. We have to record the expense even though it is not yet paid. That is why we have that interest payable, a liability account. And the explanation here is to recognize the interest for the 4-month period, full payment of which shall be made on August 31, 2021. So we already recognized the 60,000, but the payment of everything, including the 3 million plus interest, will be made on August 31, 2021. Next, adjusting entry. Adjusting entry number 8. A group of students rented the apartment of ABC Company on January 1, 2020. So the students paid 1 month advance and 2 months deposit for a total of 30,000 pesos. Take note, 1 month advance and 2 months deposit. That is 3 months. So if we will divide 30,000 pesos divided by 3 months, that is 10,000 pesos. Meaning the rent is 10,000 pesos per month. The students just paid 1 month advance and 2 months deposit. That is why the total amount that they paid is 30,000 pesos. So the total amount that ABC Company received is 30,000 pesos. ABC Company is the owner of the apartment. So this is another income, other income for the company. Unfortunately, the students were not able to pay the rent for December 2020. Unearned rent income is shown in the trial balance. What do you mean by unearned rent income is shown in the trial balance? Meaning, when ABC Company received the amount of 30,000 pesos, the entry is debit cash, credit, unearned rent income. Unearned rent income, as we discussed, is an income received in advance. So what will be the adjusting entry? They paid 30,000 pesos, 1 month advance and 2 months deposit, but they were not able to pay the rent for December 2020. What will be the adjusting entry? So let's compute. 30,000 is the amount of money that we received. We will divide that by 3 months. That means 10,000 pesos is the monthly rent. 3 months is 1 month advance and 2 months deposit. So what will be the adjusting entry? Debit. Unearned rent income, 10,000 pesos. Why debit? We will reduce the liability by 10,000 pesos. And that 10,000 pesos is the amount that we computed. 30,000 divided by 3 months. And then we will recognize the rent income of 10,000 pesos. Why did we prepare this kind of adjusting entry? Because we want to apply the advance payment made by the tenants on January 1, 2020 to the unpaid rent for December 2020. We will apply the amount we receive in advance. We received 30,000. And since the students were not able to pay the rent for the month of December, we applied the 10,000 out of 30,000 pesos. That is why the entry is debit and earned rent income and credit rent income of 10,000 pesos. So let's have an explanation of the accounts title used in adjusting entries. So merchandise inventory represents the remaining unsold merchandise at the end of the accounting period. The word inventory connotes physical count, meaning the company conducted physical count of the remaining unsold items, and the results in peso amount was labeled as merchandise inventory. As I have said, inventory at the end of the accounting period is mandatory. We have to count what are the remaining amount unsold so that we can determine how much is the sold. Next, income summary is the contra account used when preparing adjusting entries to recognize the results of the physical count of the remaining merchandise at the end of the accounting period. So we cannot avoid using income summary when we prepare adjusting entry, especially merchandise inventory. Because when you debited merchandise inventory, the question is what particular account will be made on the credit side. That is why we have to use income summary. So this account title is used in closing entries and some adjusting entries affecting nominal account or income statement accounts. Income summary is a temporary account is not appearing in financial statements. So income summary is just temporary. We just use income summary to record adjusting entries, and at the end of the accounting process we will eliminate income summary. It is not supposed to appear in the financial statements. Next, prepaid insurance is an asset account, which means insurance premium paid in advance. We have already discussed this prepaid insurance in our previous discussion. It is the insurance policy that we paid in the form of insurance premium. If we want to insure our properties, we have to pay an insurance premium to acquire the insurance policy. It is an asset because we expect benefits in the future. If something happens to us or to our asset, if there are some untoward incidents, the insurance policy will reimburse our loss or damages. So generally, the insurance policy covers a 1-year period. So at the end of the accounting period, we have to make an adjusting entry to recognize the expense portion. Prepaid insurance is also known as unexpired insurance. So this is the essence of an adjusting entry that we prepared a while ago. We recognize the expense portion of that prepaid insurance. You may notice, if you will still remember our computation, our expense portion is 8,000 out of the 24,000 insurance policy, insurance premium that we paid. Depreciation expense is the allocated amount of an asset computed based on its estimated useful life. It is an expense account, while the contra account of accumulated depreciation is presented in the balance sheet as a deduction from the cost of the asset. So, as we have said, we computed the depreciation expense based on the estimated useful life. Whatever is the cost that we will divide that with the estimated useful life. And every year, we will record the depreciation expense. And that depreciation expense is fixed amount until it reach the last year of estimated useful life. Next, accumulated depreciation is the contra account used in making an adjusting entry for depreciation expense at the end of the accounting period. It is called accumulated because it accumulates. It is the totality of all the depreciation expense recorded in the previous years. So this represents depreciation expense of previous years accumulated or piled up in this account. It piled up. This is the totality of all previous year's depreciation expense. That is why it is accumulated depreciation. This was presented in the statement of financial position or balance sheet as a deduction from the asset account to arrive at the carrying value. Later on, we will show to you how accumulated depreciation is presented in the balance sheet or statement of financial position. Next, unused office supplies is an asset account that represent the remaining supplies in the possession of the company which are not yet utilized. It is an asset account when we conducted an inventory. Just like your merchandise, we have to recognize the unused portion of the office supplies. This is the account title to be used to recognize the results of inventory count of office supplies at the end of the accounting period. So just like the merchandise inventory, physical count of office supplies is also mandatory so that we can determine how much amount is used out of the amount that we purchase. Accrued interest receivable is the account title used to recognize an interest income earned but not yet collected. This is applicable when we lend money to someone and we impose interest. So, when we lend money to some customers and we impose interest and payment shall be made in the future, we will recognize the interest income, and that interest income is also a receivable. Accrued interest payable is the account title used to identify interest expense already incurred but not yet paid. This is applicable when we borrowed money from the bank and the interest imposed upon us is not yet paid. In our example, we borrowed money from Metrobank of 3 million pesos at 6% interest, and then we recognize the expense portion of the interest and we recorded accrued interest payable that represents interest already incurred but not yet paid. Unearned income is an income received in advance. It is a liability because we have the obligation to return the amount of money we receive if the goods or services are not delivered or rendered as agreed upon. Our example in our adjusting entry is about unearned rent income. The person or the individuals renting our property usually is giving 1 month advance and 2 months deposit, and the amount of money that we receive from them is unearned income, and we will make an adjusting entry at the end of the accounting period if we will recognize a certain portion of that unearned income as an actual income. So we will continue our discussion regarding adjusting entries. In our next lesson, we will prepare a 10-column worksheet that will clearly show how adjusting entries are applied. Thank you very much for listening and viewing this video. Good evening to everybody.